Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Coffee Chat Show. We want to use this show to share with you the real, direct experience in working in this industry of finance. Why call it the Coffee Chat Show? Because we're the minions in this industry, and we know very well that the coffee chat is actually one of the most powerful venues to gain insights, build connections, and even explore job opportunities. So here we are sharing what we think about this industry and career development. Today, we are very, very honored to have our second guest, Joe, to our show. It is a great pleasure to have you on the show because you have a very unique career development. And maybe I'll just very quickly go over your background and just hand the mic to you. So Joe studied FARM at University of Waterloo. FARM stands for Financial Analysis and Risk Management. After graduating from 2018, she got hired at one of the top banks in Canada, becoming an equity trader, after which she moved to a top investment bank in the United States. And looking at her resume, that makes me a little bit sad about my 20s because I have literally done nothing compared to this background. So I'm very, very happy to pass the mic to Joe to share with you who she is and her career path.
Thanks, Josh. But I think you have covered a lot for me, so thanks for that. So I took 5 years in University of Waterloo. For anyone who isn't familiar with Waterloo, it does have the co-op program, which kind of spans over 5 years, including maybe 6 terms for work and another 8 for a school term. So it actually is very, very well established for anyone who is interested in both, working during schools. And that's why I got a lot of experiences, even when I was back at school. And that prepared me very well for my full-time jobs.
Waterloo has always been kind of the college I wanted to go to, which I ended up not choosing for some unknown reason I cannot recall right now. Turns out it is probably one of the best schools to get a job in Toronto in finance. Let's warm up a little bit. My job right now, I am maybe the most loyal user of the Microsoft Office suite, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So hearing quantitative finance does not only make me excited, but also make me nervous about my skill set. And having worked on the trading floor as well myself, I really don't know what quantitative finance is like. I would picture you having maybe like 50 monitors stacked up next to each other.
I wish I'm that
and you
cool.
see like the whole world is like kind of like the Matrix movie. I don't know whether you dress like that to work. Probably not. But let me know what is your real life kind of far from my imagination?
I think it's pretty different, but depends on like which part of the Matrix movie you're in. But we do have a lot of monitors, but from my perspective, less is more for most of the time, because for quantitative finance, it's rather boring, I'd say, because it's not about looking at the screen all day and trying to see which price chart just moved, but it's more about like focus on the data itself. Rather than excited around the noises going in the market, we would rather spend time after the market has come down to study what has been going on because of the news, and try to like see if there's any signal we can pick out from there, or try to explain what just happened. But all of that is based on data. So
how do you block yourself from all the emotion or kind of like the drive to look at the price movement? Because if the code is executing the trade for you, I assume it's probably on a higher frequency, and your P&L is probably more reflected every single second on the screen. That's just not how humanity works. How do you block yourself from wanting to look at the P&L every day, every minute actually?
That is a very good question. I think it's very difficult. Like personally, when I just joined, I couldn't resist just looking at the numbers all day long because I just wanted it to go up, but it fluctuates all day, and that is a reality. And it's very hard to get detached. But I later realized by looking at it, nothing will change. the logic behind will still be the same if you don't do any like calibration or try to improve the models. So after like 2 weeks or so, I just gave up looking at the screen because that's merely just a number. At the end of the day, like it's very well calculated to some extent, but we know what's like behind the scenes driving the P&L. So if we want to improve the number, we have to leave the distractions and really get to the numbers and dig in and see how we can improve it.
Cool. But here's the thing. In quantitative trading, how do you decide like when enough is enough? Stop loss or take profit? How do you decide that?
I think as a quant, I just say everything is calculated. So before anything even went into the system, we need to make the threshold or calculate the threshold and determine what's the optimal level that we need to, let's say, trade or maybe hedge something to unwind a loss or capture the gain. We don't really just let it randomly run and say, okay, we want a manual intervention. That's very rare.
It does bear some similarities to how we invest, but probably more, rigorous from a quantitative perspective. Cool. Before getting in way too deep in this subject, let's talk about how you started your career, which I personally have found extremely unique. So let's talk about. So you moved to Canada for high school, right?
Yeah,
and
grade 11.
That's right. So did I. And then you moved to University of Waterloo. Tell me about your first internship. What was that about?
Wow, I think the first internship was probably the hardest. For one thing, I think that year almost 50% of my friends, they didn't find a job or they just maybe took a pause, and some of them even decided to go on to the next school term because jobs were so rare at the time. And for me, I think I was pretty lucky. I was lucky enough to get a sales job. So it's completely irrelevant to finance.
Where?
It's not even a major company, but it's like a local small business where everybody is a sales. So we all get our like business card and we went those local businesses and we knock on the doors and try to sell them internet.
Wow.
Yeah, so from we probably had like morning huddle at 8 a.m. and then we had like 1 hour chat and try to do the prep talk and get everybody pumped up for the morning, and then we just went our own way and go to our designated area and try to push the sales.
How do you even get into those buildings?
So those are not
proprietary method.
Yeah, no residential no residential areas, but just the commercial businesses. So more like those convenience stores and even bubble tea shops. So we just go in when they're quiet.
Internet too.
Yeah, they do, especially for customer who just sit there for the entire afternoon.
So that was your first internship, completely non-finance related. How did you realize that you wanted to work in finance actually?
The trauma that I had from my first internship was I literally had to be out of the door for the entire day. So I pretty much walked from maybe 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. almost every single day.
In winter?
Well, it was in the summer, but still it was, Canadian summer is pretty nice. But that was a moment that I was thinking to myself, I want to sit down. I want to, work in a place where I have the, aircon blasting in my face and I will wrap myself up with a nice blanket. Yeah. So that was the trauma that I had from my first internship. But I think that the second reason is I watched too many TV shows when I was young. And there were just so many like professional like women and they are so independent. I was just so inspired when I was young. And I just wanted to be one of those. So when many of my friends, they're a bit senior, when they go to finance industry, that also gave me the feeling that maybe I should try finance as well.
So how did you find your first internship in finance without any former experience in the field?
I guess I was a little bit lucky because I had a couple of like interviews and some of them are not directly related to finance, but I waited because for that was the third internship that I had. I wanted to find something that I'm really interested in the longer term. So maybe I want to just wait it out for good opportunities. I was lucky enough that after waiting for like 2 more weeks, there was one like buy-side firm. They're a very small hedge fund, and they just joined the employer pool in Waterloo, so they started hiring people. And I guess I'm pretty lucky and show my enthusiasm, and they picked me at the end. So I think it's a combination of good luck and also good timing.
You waited. How? Like usually you jump. I study at University of Toronto. Usually, people jump at the first opportunity they can find, which is kind of a rare commodity.
Yep.
How were you able to overcome? Probably that's related to why you're able to not look at the P&L. How were you able to wait it out in the first 2 weeks when all your friends were probably most of your friends were probably interviewing?
It was tough because, yeah, like you said, it's very hard to resist to those offers, and especially reject offers when people say, I want you, and maybe like turning.
Oh, you rejected offers.
Yeah, I turned down a few, and often like turning down offers. Sometimes I don't know how sometimes it might burn bridges, but I decided to give a shot to waited 2 more weeks for myself.
So what made you think? So when you were looking at the offers, what were you thinking?
And I feel a little bit guilty because I think one of the trick they always tell you is when you go to the interview table, always tell the counterparty or interviewer that you're extremely interested, because for some people that's a numbers game. But for me, I think it's more about the quality. So if something I think it doesn't work out, then I just tell them directly or have them to tell me directly if I'm not the perfect fit. Turning down offers does bring some risk, meaning they might never hire again or even tell their coworkers about you. So they might not consider you for any other positions. But back then, I think I was willing to take the risk because the jobs are not directly related to finance, and I want to see if there's anything that I can get from maybe a bigger finance institutions. So I just waited a bit.
So this is very inspiring, and I am now looking at the camera because I want to tell you the other side of the story to that. What Joe just told you about demonstrates how important it is to work hard and study hard in college and do very well in the interviews. So you have the optionalities. Why am I stressing this? Because I also waited out for 3 years in my college.
Oh.
Unwillingly, because I had no interviews in college. And it was tough. This is actually my first time hearing undergrads rejecting offers. To me at the time, I was standing at the door at that menswear retail, and I had exactly the same thought. After standing, I wasn't even walking, right? So I was standing there for 8 hours, and I was like, it would be really great to maybe sit down and maybe just have a laptop or something to do brain work, right? Instead of just standing here, I wasn't even really thinking. I was just saying, how are you doing? How are you? How's your day going? 500, 1,000 times a day to every incoming customer. But my experience was more I couldn't get any interview, so I was just imagining any cubicle behind any window in these commercial buildings. Just give me a desk. I'll sit down, I'll work hard, I'll make money another way. But my experience was because of the fact that I did not have an outstanding GPA, so very hard to try your best in college.
Yeah.
I did not, by the way. I did not.
I think GPA is one factor, but it's definitely not the determining factor. And I don't want to, lead people in the wrong way, but I also got fair amount of rejections on my part as well. So maybe just how the system works. So back in Waterloo, we could potentially submit it up to 50 applications.
Cap is 50.
Yes.
You can't apply to every single thing.
You cannot. So even though there are hundreds, you cannot just submit your CV for hundreds.
Interesting.
So there was a cap. probably apply for 20. I did get a pretty good number of interviews, but also got rejected a bunch. So that's why after going through like 10 interviews just within 2 weeks, your perspectives change. And I think for me, it ended up being a selection process. How do I increase my chance to get the most desirable jobs that I wanted? Even though that might means I got rejected by these firms, even though I really tried hard to get them, and turning down the offers that I might not want.
So what did you do at the hedge fund?
It was an interesting opportunity because it was a relatively smaller firm.
Okay.
So everybody pretty much just sit, face to face. We are separated by like computers, but my neighbors probably knew me very well, just by sitting very close to me. What I did was, because it was so new, I was helping them like booking trades for the first several weeks.
Right.
But hey, I did get my own Bloomberg. I consider that as
Always
a win.
a luxury.
Exactly. And I would help them book trades and also try to see if there's any way that can help them make better decisions for trading. But I would say like for the first 2 months, things are relatively operational.
Got it.
And maybe starting from the third week, I starting to learn a little bit more about what are the like ways they make money and what are the strategies they would take to the investors.
Is that how you realize you want to get into trading? So I worked on trading as well. Even the year I worked in trading, it was pretty. There are way let's say there are way more males than females, and I think so to decide to get into a rowdy floor with mostly boys, right? How did you make that? How did you make that decision to want to become a trader?
I still remember the first moment that I walked in the trading floor. It was grand, and there
open space, high ceiling.
Everybody's yelling,
Yeah.
either over the phone or just towards each other. And there's like big screen behind everybody's desk, and there's like news flashing. I just walked in the role that I about to sit in.
Right.
And I still remember that moment. I feel like I'm one of those girls in Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh.
It was very exciting. And I just felt like, I belong here.
Wow.
I want to belong.
You felt
here.
empowered.
I feel very empowered. At the moment, I don't care like anyone here, they're boys or girls.
Yeah.
I just feel like I belong to this place and I want to work for it.
So did you like fit into that role or develop into that role fairly quickly, or you also, like me, you also went through a very stressed out period? By the way, working on a trading floor is a different animal. I'll quickly share with you my very briefly my experience. People scream at you with foul language all the time, every day. I was working in Hong Kong at the time, so it was always mostly in Cantonese.
Yeah.
I was booking trades as well for my traders at first. One mistake equals to 4 to 5 curse words. So the exchange rate was not very favorable.
Yeah.
So it was fairly difficult, fairly challenging and difficult for me in the beginning. I don't know about you.
Maybe compared to your experiences, I lucked out again. There are a few people who were already there, who've been through all, and they kind of helped me and lent me a hand and told me a little bit tricks about how to handle this well. So I survived.
Picking up those strange calls. So this is what I actually want to get into. This is literally the perfect segue. Both of us grew up in mainland China. Part of our life, we develop our language, our cultural background there, right? And we also didn't really move here at a very young age. I moved here when I was 16, 15 years old. I think so did you, around that age. And like get into the trading floor, that involves a lot of like chit-chatting with your desk mates, right? And you're on the phone. You can't even see the person's face to detect what they're speaking. Because sometimes when you're listening, it actually helps, right? If you can see the person's face, you're on the phone and they're talking really, really fast, right? How did you like accommodate to that?
I think work and life or just a social are two completely different aspects. So work-wise, it's something that you have to get good at because that part is almost inseparable from your job. You just have to know the details.
Yeah.
You have to know the lingos to really perform well in your job. But social life-wise, you do need to interact with people, and like you said, we don't share the same childhood.
Yeah.
There are a lot of memories that maybe they can easily talk about, but for us, we just sit beside them and try to do some like fake laughs.
Oh, fake laughs.
Because everybody knows about like Michael Jackson, but they might just throw some names that you never heard before.
Yeah.
And talking about some like rock bands from the 80s, which is so famous for those guys, but I occasionally find very hard to connect. I did go through some challenging times trying to find what we have in common.
How did you find that? Would you actually maybe go back and search what those rock bands are, like trying to learn?
Oh, that certainly happened. After the conversation, I turned back and I was like Googling, what do they talk about? I think that happened and certainly lasted for a while. But I realized at the end, you just have to be very honest about yourself. If you don't know about something,
that's very right.
Yeah, you just say it. I remember I told, my MD was telling me that he went to like a pop show or a rock show, and a rock star is someone they really loved. And I just simply asked, who's that guy? He was so like astonished. I can see the shock in his face. He was probably like, his facial expression was saying, how could this girl not know this man? But he later on gave me 30 minutes like teaching just about how great this guy is, and for the rest of the day he just played this guy's playlist. For me, he's like, you have to know about this guy. And
a crash course.
Yes. I don't think I can ever forget about that rock star.
That's very funny.
So I think that's one way that we build connections. And it's not just about like taking in what's theirs, but sometimes you also share about what you love. I also later on took this colleague to have some ramen, which he also turns out to have enjoyed very much. So it's not about just accepting their culture, but it's more about how we can merge the culture and try to take advantage from both sides.
I very much love that story. I'll share with you a story of mine that's very similar. That's the moment kind of when I realized, you actually need to go out of your way, like jump out of your comfort zone and expose yourself to different cultures, right? So I was working in Hong Kong at Bloomberg at the time, and the head of the sales is from the United States, so he came over and he was talking to our batch, right, on during a cocktail party, and I don't remember exactly what the context was, but he was starting to kind of joke about something, and he was hinting this song, "The Eye of the Tigers," and he was just like boom, 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 right? But every single note he sang, he was waiting a little bit for someone to pick it up, right? But like in Hong Kong, like I don't think, at least the folks at my table, they didn't really know what the hell was going on, right? Like. So every single millisecond was just awkward silence. Can you imagine? Just like boom, 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 boom. No one reacted.
Oh my God! Yes.
I couldn't bear the awkward silence, so I tried. I was like, boom, 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 and the guy was so excited. I was like, this guy, at least he knows. And I guess like sometimes it's those little moments that. In a way could set you apart if you're in that relationship building business, right? Because at Bloomberg I was in the account management, sales, client facing type of role. So I agree with you, like completely hear you on all those like experiences. It is very important.
Yeah, if I could give one advice, just from my very humble perspective, when I joined my third internship, one of the feedback or one of the like great advice I've received, personally, is one of the senior guy. He just sat down one day with me. He's like, you know what? I could share a list of movies with you, because in this industry, if you guys don't talk to me or talk to us, it's unlikely that we will come and talk to you. So sometimes it would be helpful if you can come to us and share something you have, watched recently, or just to kind of exchange something we have in common. Yeah. So he gave me a list of old movies or very classical movies that he said you have to watch. I think he did it for, he probably has a very good purpose when he passed me the list. And I did go back and watched. Oh. It was a very good list, mixture of like finance and also just some like good movies that people talk about.
Oh, you gotta share that list with me. That sounds super interesting.
Will. Yes.
Cool. So, so that was about a junior trader's life or experience at first in their career on the trading floor. Now you have kind of advanced in your career, right? And you have progressed further down the path of a quantitative trader. I understand that your colleagues are probably mostly PhDs, right? And you have worked all your life after graduating from our undergrad. How does that work out? Working with people that are way more educated than we are, and how do you fit into that group?
It's challenging because everyone's so smart around me. It's a very different environment compared to the environment that I worked like maybe 5 years ago. So everyone's so sharp. You just have to like learn more. So it's a great motivation for me to pick up the books, and especially learn a little bit more about math and statistics. So just try to match their levels. They also kind of helped me a lot when I started. But coming from the trading background, I also brought my own experiences, what I've been through and what I can brought to the table and help with the business. But I gotta say, having the right expertise in terms of like data analysis and having the core skill sets are what would really help me do well in the job.
So that means you can literally learn in the job and develop your skill set.
I do have to learn and run faster than anyone else because they're already ahead of me.
I can echo that.
Yes.
I did observe that too. That you are indeed sprinting harder after you got into that job. So speaking of quantitative finance, right? Like now we have like ChatGPT 4.0. This is something every single person talks about. How does that affect the world of quantitative finance? The reason I'm asking is because, if I imagine myself as a new grad or a fourth year student, right? This is like this is a split road, right? Because back then, like when I was in undergrad, like you just learn coding. You got to be very great at math, stats, and coding, right? Now it's a question like, should I still learn coding? Because ChatGPT 4 can do it. I obviously don't need to write very well because ChatGPT 4.0 can do it for me, right? So do you what's the most relevant skill set right now to get into quant finance?
So first of all, I don't know how big the spectrum is that ChatGPT services can cover, but I think it presents the challenge to some junior jobs, but definitely not the senior type of jobs. Okay. So if you want to excel at what you do, you kind of have to surpass ChatGPT's level. It does know something, but I don't think it gets to a level that can completely replace, for example, our seniors.
Okay.
Because that's very unique, and maybe the bespoke knowledge domain that we have is not very easy to replace.
So the irreplaceable skills is kind of like judgment, experience, finding the right thing to experiment with, right? That creativity, strategizing, let's call it.
Yes.
Is that right?
Because from my experience, I think ChatGPT can bring some convenience to our work, maybe by reducing some manual work, but it does not take away the core of your value add to the business.
Cool. So let me spin this question a little bit, because you're definitely now involved in hiring process. If you're interviewing a candidate for the analyst position, right? What matters to you the most? Because you're going to work with that person most frequently on a day-to-day basis, right?
I don't know if this is
where you get
standard.
Sounding.
No. I think I do have to give the credit to one of my managers, one of my old manager. So he does give me a lot of pointers. And something that I learned is you have to be unique. So just like having your own hashtag. So think about on the floor. If I ask you who is the like sports guy, you probably have something in your head.
Right.
And now I ask you, okay, who is the gym boy or gym girl?
Yeah.
You probably also have the person's name.
Okay.
And who's the most social person? You probably also know who that person is. So everybody almost come with a hashtag. And what's yours?
The dumb guy. That's mine.
I certainly don't think so. But yes, along the years, I try to kind of define my own hashtag. And when I try to know somebody and also try to even hire someone in the past hiring process, I try to see what's the unique like characteristic of this guy and what can this person bring to the table.
But it's interesting that you are talking about almost non-work related, unique attributes about a person, right? Gym or movie or sport, right? In an interview process, right? Like what qualities are those for you to get to the final round?
It depends on the nature of the job. It could be related to
your job.
Maybe back in trading, it's more about whether you have maybe relevant experiences.
Okay.
Have you done an internship? And maybe for a more quantitative role, you have to be very comfortable writing maybe a piece of code during interviews. But that's like technical.
Yeah.
Everybody has to go through that. And if you pass that barrier, then what really differentiates you is whether we would, I personally would pick that person or not.
Yeah, and it's important to know that like you start with some kind of a hashtag or branding, right? But building your branding at work is extremely crucial. When you talk about like branding, right, hashtag, it just reminded me about my experience because like, winning the job with a unique feature about yourself is definitely important, but continuing it or enhancing it down the road is even more meaningful to one's career development.
Yeah. One of my great mentor told me that you have to reinforce your branding for your hashtag to almost everyone around you. And you just have to market about yourself and your work. Because doing your job well, it's only 50% of your job. But how to make it sound like you're adding value to the business, letting other people know what you're doing, it's another 50% of your job. Because if you don't communicate, no one knows what you're doing, and they probably don't know how to collaborate with you. So it's just crucial build that like credibility.
Yep, I completely agree, and that is very well said. You have to build your branding and almost like market yourself at your job. For the sake of time, being very well aware, I have one last question. If you have a time machine and you can travel back, right? But you only get one chance, one message you can deliver to your own self, let's say at 24, 25 years old, what would that message be?
I would invest more in myself. So,
what do you mean? Like
we learn a lot about how to utilize your money. We have, so many amazing tools like TFSAs and RSP. And at the time, I just spent a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, how I can leverage them the most so that I would benefit from them. But if I can travel back, then I would tell myself to maybe take some time or take some money out of that and rather invest in myself.
How?
So
Where?
maybe learn a few more courses. Go to maybe a few more seminars and learn about how I can improve myself. So I think maybe that's a message for anyone who is at that age. Try to invest yourself because you're the most valuable assets, and you can still earn money when you're 30. That's probably your prime, but investing in yourself might yield a good, better results when you head into your 30s because
the longer term.
Yeah, exactly.
I really, really, really like that answer. Okay, cool. I think this is a perfect ending to our episode number 2. Hey everyone, so just want to take this quick chance to thank our very honorable guest, Jo, again, for sharing her experience and insights. And thank you for watching this episode. See you next time.